Hey, Noel Powell here with creationeffects.com, and in this video I'll be showing you this paper cutout animation effect in Adobe After Effects. So I'll show you how to turn your footage into a moving collage of little cutouts and just pieces of paper assembled on top of each other, kind of similar to a South Park effect. And this is an inexpensive After Effects template where you just drop in your footage and then you can customize the detail level and shadows and everything with the controls. Or you can swap out paper textures, or you can use it on text or graphics. It's very flexible and customizable, and it also comes with a lot of animated design elements and effects. So you can give your layers a torn paper edge, or you can create custom paper shapes by drawing a mask. So if you're working on any kind of paper themed project, this will save you a ton of time. This effect has always been bundled with the Creation Artifacts template, which has 50 different artifacts for your footage, and this animated paper cutout effect just being one of them. So if you want more options, you can check that out. I'll leave a link in the description for both templates. Alright, let me show you how to use it. You'll get a link to download a zip file, and when you open the After Effects project inside, you'll see these instructions for getting started. And your first step will be to import your footage. So I'm gonna grab this clip of these ghosts. I'm recording this on Halloween Day, so I figured that was appropriate. And I'll click open, and depending on whether you want an HD or 4K animation, you'd open one of these folders. The contents of the folders are identical, they're just different resolutions. I'm going with HD because it's faster, even though my clip is 4K. And you can just put that into the comp named Your Footage. I'll just scale it down. And you can use an HD clip in the 4K folder if you want to. Just scale it up to fit. Alright, now that that's in there, I can open this paper cutout effect comp to see my animation with the default settings. We'll want to customize this and try different looks. And right away, I know I'm not going to want to use these construction paper colors. These can be fun, but to make it more obvious that these are ghosts, I want to see the white sheets. So on this control layer, that's where all of our customization controls are for the scene, divided into categories. I'm going to turn on Use Colors from Footage, and I think that's better. I'm also noticing that I don't think we're even seeing all the paper layers here. The brightest level of paper is missing, and that's because our footage is too dark. So if you want to take advantage of all the paper textures in this comp, you should check the levels on your footage. I'll add a levels effect to this and just bring these arrows in to where the waveform starts on both sides. You want the brightest parts of the footage to be pure white and the darkest parts pure black. Alright, we're going to improve this. On our control layer, I don't think I need to go through all of these. You can play with them and see what they do. And also you can read what they do in this instructions layer here. This one is kind of an overview of how the effect works, and this one explains all the customization controls. But it wouldn't hurt to give you an overview though. So coverage and detail, I'll use these in a minute. Outline controls, you can turn on the outline and then customize it with these sliders. Turbulent displace, that makes the edges of the paper layers wavy and uneven. You don't want it to look too perfect because we want it to look like it was handmade, not made by a computer. Jagged edge controls, I'll probably just turn those off, and that makes it look smoother. Shadows and bevels, pretty self-explanatory. And then the texture speed, if you turn this down to 20% or so, it'll make the paper textures fade into each other, rather than changing completely on every frame. And speaking of frames, the low frame rate is an important part of this effect because we want that stop motion animation look. If you viewed this at 30 frames per second, it would be way too fast and jittery. So you can change the frame rate in the composition settings panel here. Anywhere from 5 to 10 is my preference, but you can experiment. If you need your video to be at a higher frame rate, what you can do is set this to 24 or 29.97 or whatever, and then go to this layer named Stop Motion Effect and unhide this posterized time effect and set your frame rate in here. It has the same effect, but it's going to be a lot slower to preview and render this way. Now, this stop motion effect serves another purpose. This is an adjustment layer, and it will add random variation to the position, scale, rotation, and brightness of the whole animation. and it changes randomly on every frame. So it's meant to imitate someone taking a photo of each frame, and every photo is slightly different or not lined up perfectly. So you can customize that variation with these controls. Okay, I'll go to my coverage and detail controls. We can set the detail level and how much we want to see for all 6 paper textures. If we look at our timeline, each paper texture is made with 3 layers, grouped by color. There's this alpha matte, and then the animated paper texture, and then a drop shadow layer. If you double click the animated paper texture, that'll open up the pre-comp, and you can see what that looks like. And even in here you have customization options, but you probably won't want to do anything in here. Although if you wanted to change out the paper texture, that's always going to be this bottom layer here. You just select it, and then in the project panel, open this Files and Extra Effects folder, and then Paper Textures, and you've got a bunch of options in here that you can use. So to swap it out with that layer selected, you just hold down your Alt key if you're on Windows, or the Option key if you're on a Mac, and you just drag the file into your timeline. Alright, you can see the setup here is light papers stacked on dark papers. The darkest paper is at the bottom, and the lightest is up here, paper 1. I want to see more detail on the ghosts on the lightest paper because I want to see his eyes. So I'll turn down the detail radius of these top 2 papers, and I'll adjust the coverage a little bit so we see more of that brightest paper. And I think to shift the focus to our subject, I want the background to have a lot less detail. So I'll go to these bottom ones and increase the detail radius a bunch, which actually makes it less detailed. Alright, let's take a look at this Files and Extra Effects folder again. You've got a paper sound effect here, and there's a bunch of paper effects in this comp. So you've got various paper elements with a stop motion effect. You can use these as backgrounds or just design elements in your motion designs. Or up here you have some options for making custom paper shapes just by editing the mask. And it has this torn paper edge that you can customize with the controls. So you can put some text over these and make animated paper titles. If you just type some text in the Your Footage comp, it'll turn it into paper cutouts and preserve the transparent background. So then you can just drag the paper cutout comp onto here for your title. Or you can do strips of paper along a mask's path. Lots of options. Just read the instructions in this comment column and it'll tell you what to do. These were kind of added as a bonus in the last minute. I don't want to spend a lot of time on these, but they all came from the mixed media effect, which is a template for turning your footage into a mixed media animation. Very similar to this kind of effect, actually. I want you to make the best animation possible, and sometimes that means doing more than just running your footage through the effect and tweaking the controls. So I thought I'd share my process for making a couple of the animations from earlier, and maybe it'll give you some ideas. So for this guy with the hat, I knew I wanted a really simple paper background, but more details on his face. So what I did in the Your Footage comp, I just drew a mask around his facial features. And then I added a median effect to blur the footage. And in the median effects compositing options, I made it reference the mask. And here I'm inverting the mask because I want the median effect to affect everything outside the mask. And then I just turn up the amount and feather the mask a bit. And I turned off jagged edges to smooth things out. And then I adjusted the detail radius controls so that we can see a lot more detail in the face. And I turned on the outline as well, which helps us see the face better. And for this butterfly clip, this was a bit more work. I wanted to customize the butterfly and the background separately. So what I did was duplicate the Your Footage comp and the paper cutout effect comp to make 2 separate effects, which I would combine later. My duplicated paper cutout effect comp still used the original Your Footage pre-comp, and I needed it to use my new duplicated comp. So I went to the source name and then clicked all of the Your Footage layers, And then I did a swap using the technique I showed you earlier. I held down the Option key or Alt key and dragged my new footage pre-comp in to replace the old one. So in my footage pre-comp, where I wanted just the butterfly without the background, I used the roto brush tool to paint on the butterfly and then just let it play, which cut the butterfly out from the background. And for the other footage pre-comp where I wanted my background, I just added a median effect and turned it way up, which removed all the detail and contrast. I then made some adjustments to the controls in the paper cutout effect comp with my butterfly to add more detail, and I combined the two comps with the butterfly in the background into a new comp. And here I am making some adjustments to the background. I made sure to turn on use colors from footage to get the green colors, and turned off jagged edges, and I hid a few of the paper layers because I wanted to keep it simple. And I'm back in my final comp now, and I wanted to add a torn paper edge around the butterfly. And the way that effect works, it puts it along a mask's path. So to create a mask that outlined my butterfly, I used the auto trace feature on my butterfly layer and made sure it was set to trace the alpha channel and then let it play through. And then I went down and deleted all the little masks so that only the main mask remained. After Effects puts those masks on a separate layer, so I copied that mask and pasted it directly to my butterfly layer, and then I deleted that other layer. Then I went to my extra elements and effects comp, and I found this torn paper edge effect. I copied all the controls and effects on that layer, and then pasted them to my butterfly layer. And I used the controls to increase the width. And since the butterfly was so dark, it wasn't showing up. It wasn't showing the whole stroke, so I went to this CC composite effect, and I just changed the blending mode and the effect, and that did the trick. And it still needed something, so I figured I'd swap out some paper textures. In the background comp, I located the two paper layers that make up the background, and I double-clicked them to open their pre-comps. And then I just selected the bottom layer, and I swapped it out with a different paper texture image using that alt drag technique. So that was a lot, I know, sorry, and it was fast, but if you're pretty familiar with After Effects, it probably made some sense to you and gave you some ideas, hopefully. Again, if you still need to download this template, the link is in the description, as well as the links to the mixed media effect and creation artifacts. If you want to check those out, I'll leave you with some example animations from those templates. And that's it. Best of luck on your paper cutout animation.